Los Angeles, north side of Wilshire Boulevard. March 14th, 2019. 15 minutes past noon. Ozzy Osbourne stepped out of the office building in Beverly Hills with his head full. He and Sharon, along with their lawyers, had been hammering out the final details of a new merchandise deal. He was 70 years old now, but he still read every single line of every contract. "Trust no one," Sharon would say, "especially the ones with ties." Ozzy slipped on his sunglasses and zipped up his leather jacket. This time of year in Los Angeles had a strange temperature, not cold, not hot. His driver, Trevor, was waiting around the corner in the black Mercedes, but Ozzy wanted to walk. "Trevi," he said, "come back in 20 minutes. I'm going to walk a bit." As he moved down the sidewalk, his fingers turned the metal lighter over and over in his pocket. He'd quit smoking 8 years ago, but the habit was still there. The people around him were buried in their phones. No one looked at him. That was good. Being famous was a curse most of the time. Everyone wanted something. A photo, an autograph, a selfie, a story. But right now, on this Thursday afternoon, Ozzy was just an old man. Someone in a leather jacket, walking slow, thinking. 50 meters ahead, on the wide stone steps in front of a bank branch, a man was sitting. Ozzy didn't notice him at first, but then he heard music. Guitar, not electric, acoustic. And that sound, it was familiar, very familiar. Ozzy stopped. He turned his head toward it. In front of the man was an open guitar case with a few coins and a dollar bill inside. The man was old, maybe 65, maybe 70. His face was sun-scorched, a reddish-brown tone. His hair was white, long, dirty. His beard, the same. He wore a military green parka, but it was worn out, torn in places. His pants, too, faded camouflage pattern. On his feet were boots, military boots, but the laces were broken. And this man was playing the song Ozzy Osbourne had written in 1970, the song that changed the world, the song with maybe the most iconic riff in rock history, Iron Man. Ozzy held his breath. The riff was perfect. Slow, heavy, dark. The man's fingers danced across the strings of that old Yamaha acoustic. His eyes were closed. He was singing the song, but no sound came out. Only his lips moved. Ozzy took a step forward, then another. His heart was racing. For 50 years, he'd heard that song thousands of times, in concert recordings, on the radio, in commercials, on YouTube. But right now, on this sidewalk, in the hands of this homeless man, it was different, heavier, more real, more filled with pain. On the cardboard sign in front of the man, something was written, but the ink had faded. Some letters were unreadable. Vietnam vet. Anything helps. God bless. Ozzy reached into his pocket. He pulled out his wallet. Inside were a few $100s in cash. 20s, 50s, hundreds. He took out a $100 bill, folded it, and dropped it into the guitar case. The man was still playing, his eyes still closed. He hadn't noticed. Ozzy stepped back and watched for a moment. When the riff ended, the man slowly opened his eyes. He looked down at the guitar case. He saw the 100. He lifted his head and looked at Ozzy. His expression was shocked, but also tired. So tired. Ozzy lowered his sunglasses slightly, showing his eyes. "You play that well," he said. His voice was a little raspy. "Really bloody well." The man smiled, but that smile was full of pain, full of sadness. "Thank you, sir," he said. His voice was cracked, as if he hadn't spoken in a long time. "That song, it means something to me." Ozzy nodded. "Me too, mate. Me too." There was a silence. Should Ozzy leave? He should. Trevor was waiting in the car. Sharon was waiting at home. But something kept him there. The look in that man's eyes. That emptiness. That depth. Ozzy recognized that look. Years ago, he'd seen it in his own reflection. In the 1980s, in his darkest days, when he was a prisoner to drugs and alcohol. That look of, The world gave up on me, so I gave up on myself. "What's your name, mate?" Ozzy asked. The man hesitated, as if no one had asked him that question in a long time. "Daniel," he said. "Daniel Carson, but people used to call me Danny." Ozzy extended his hand. "I'm Ozzy." Danny shook it. His hand was rough, calloused, but it was trembling. "I know who you are, Mr. Osbourne," he said. There was a strange respect in his voice. "Everyone knows who you are." Ozzy laughed. That familiar, slightly mad Ozzy laugh. "Well, not everyone. Sharon says half the world thinks I'm dead." Danny smiled. This time, it was a bit more real. Ozzy sat down next to him. The stone steps were cold, but he didn't care. Danny was shocked. Ozzy Osbourne, one of the most famous rock stars in the world, had just sat down beside him. "You play Iron Man like you lived it," Ozzy said. "Not many people can do that." Danny lowered his head. He looked at his guitar. Fingerprints shone on the strings. "I did live it, sir," he said quietly. "Not the song exactly, but the feeling. That heavy, cold, metal feeling. Like you're stuck inside something and can't get out. Like you became a thing, not a person anymore." Ozzy's heart tightened. This was it. This was the connection. They'd written Iron Man in 1970. Tony Iommi had created that legendary riff. Geezer Butler had written the lyrics. The story was about a man. He'd entered a magnetic storm to save humanity, but the storm had turned him into steel. When he returned home, no one recognized him. He couldn't speak, only walk, and people just ignored him. In the end, he took his revenge. But the real message was this: soldiers returning from war, PTSD, trauma. Society sends them off as heroes, but when they come back, they're like iron men, frozen, silent, invisible. "You served?" Ozzy asked. Danny nodded. "Vietnam, 1968 to 70. Marines, 2 tours. His voice was flat, emotionless, but storms raged in his eyes. "I was 19 when I went. Came back at 21. But the boy who left, he never came home. Only the metal man did." Ozzy wanted to say something, but the words wouldn't come. What could he say? "Thank you for your service." That cliché phrase wouldn't change anything. "I'm sorry." That wasn't enough either. Instead, he asked, "What happened when you came back?" Danny took a deep breath. He touched the guitar strings without making a sound. "Nothing happened, Mr. Osbourne. That's the problem. I came back. They gave me a medal, sent me home, and then nothing. No job, no help, no therapy. Just, here's your discharge papers, good luck." I tried. God knows I tried. Worked at a factory for 3 years. But the sounds, the machines, every loud noise felt like gunfire. I'd hit the floor. People laughed. They fired me. Said I was unstable. Ozzy listened. Just listened. That was all he could do. "My wife left in 76, Danny continued. "Took the kids. Said I wasn't the man she married. She was right. I wasn't. I was just broken pieces pretending to be a person. I drank to forget. Lost the apartment. Lost everything. Been on the street since 1981. 38 years now." 38 years. Ozzy's head spun. 1981. That was the year he'd released the Diary of a Madman album. The year he'd toured with Randy Rhoads. The year he'd made millions. And Danny Carson, a Vietnam veteran, had been living on the streets for 38 years. "Why Iron Man?" Ozzy asked. "Why that song?" Danny smiled. But this time there was a spark in his eyes. A memory. "First time I heard it was in 1971 on a radio. In the hospital. VA hospital. Shrapnel wounds being treated. A nurse had turned on the radio. The song played. And I cried. Because someone understood. Someone knew what it felt like. To be the Iron Man. To be frozen. To be invisible." Ozzy's eyes filled with tears. 50 years. For 50 years, that song had meant something to this man. A lifeline, a connection, a message of, "You're not alone." And Ozzy, the man who'd written that song, was sitting beside him right now. But Danny seemed to have forgotten that Ozzy was the song's creator. Or maybe he didn't care. Maybe the song wasn't Ozzy's anymore. It had become Danny's. "Danny," Ozzy said slowly, "I want to do something. I don't know what yet, but something. You shouldn't be here. Not like this. Not after what you did for your country." Danny nodded, but his smile was sad. "I appreciate it, Mr. Osbourne. But I've heard that before. People say things. They mean well. But then they forget. And I'm still here. On this step. With this guitar. And that's okay. I've made peace with it." But Ozzy Osbourne was not a man who accepted, "It's okay." He never had been. Sharon always said, "You're stubborn as a bloody mule, Ozzy. Once you decide something, God himself couldn't change your mind." Ozzy stood up. He called Trevor. "Trevi, get over here. Wilshire and—" He looked at Danny. "What's the cross street?" Danny answered in confusion. "Camden. Wilshire and Camden. 5 minutes." He hung up and looked at Danny. "Come on, mate. You're coming with me." Danny flinched. "What? No, I can't. I mean, I appreciate it, but—" "No buts," Ozzy said. His voice wasn't harsh, but it was firm. "You played my song. Now I'm going to do something for you. Fair trade, yeah?" Danny's eyes filled with tears. But this time, the tears were different. Was it fear, hope, or both? Ozzy couldn't tell. When the Mercedes arrived, Trevor was surprised. Standing next to Ozzy was a homeless man carrying a guitar. But Trevor didn't ask any questions. He'd been Ozzy's driver for 15 years. He'd seen everything. In the car, Danny was still in shock. He was afraid to sit on the seat. He was dirty. He smelled. But Ozzy acted like he didn't care and handed him a bottle of water. "Drink, mate. You look dehydrated." Danny drank. His hands were shaking. On the way, Ozzy called Sharon. "Sharon, love, it's a bit of a strange situation, but I'll explain. I'm bringing a guest home." Sharon's voice was suspicious. "Ozzy, what did you do now?" "Nothing bad, I swear. Just trust me." When they arrived home, Sharon was waiting at the door. When she saw Danny, her expression changed. Surprise, then understanding, then that familiar Sharon Osbourne warmth. "Hello, dear. You must be freezing. Come in, come in." Danny walked inside as if he were dreaming. The house, it was massive. Paintings, sculptures, gold records on the walls. But Sharon led him to the guest room and gave him clean towels. "Shower's there. Clean clothes in the closet. Ozzy's old stuff. Should fit. Take your time." Danny took a shower. It was probably the longest shower he'd had in 38 years. When the hot water touched his skin, he cried. Silently, helplessly. Downstairs, Ozzy told Sharon everything. Sharon listened and nodded. "So what's the plan?" she asked. Ozzy shrugged. "I don't know yet. But we start with food, shower, sleep. Then we figure it out." Sharon looked at her husband. In their 42 years of marriage, she'd seen Ozzy like this hundreds of times, locked onto a purpose, refusing to give up. "You're a good man, Ozzy Osbourne," she said softly. "A very strange, very stubborn, very good man." At dinner, the three of them sat together. At first, Danny couldn't speak. He just ate. But then Ozzy started asking questions. Vietnam, the war, coming home. Danny talked. And for the first time, someone was truly listening. Without judgment, without pity, just listening. At the end of the night, Ozzy said something. "Danny, mate, we created that song, but you taught me what it really means. For 50 years, I was playing on stage while you were living on the street, and I hadn't done anything. Now let me do something." Danny's eyes filled with tears. "Mr. Osbourne, you already gave me everything. That song, it was my friend, my only friend for decades." Ozzy nodded. "Then let me give you more friends, real ones, starting tomorrow." The next day, Ozzy took action. But this time, with Sharon. The two of them sat at the table and placed a notebook in front of Danny. "Look, mate," Ozzy said, "we want to help. But we need to do this right. Not just throw money and disappear. Real help." Sharon added, her tone both warm and determined. "We've called Veterans Affairs. They're sending someone tomorrow. PTSD assessment, benefits application, medical screening, everything you should have gotten 50 years ago." Danny nodded but couldn't speak. Having freedom this close was terrifying. A week later, the first steps were taken. A social worker from the VA came and spoke with Danny for hours. Tests were done, forms were filled out. PTSD was officially diagnosed. The disability benefits application was approved. Retroactive. Danny was going to receive the money he'd been owed for 38 years. When the first check arrived, Danny cried. $47,000. A check. A piece of paper. But that piece of paper was an apology for 38 years. Ozzy didn't touch the money. He helped Danny deposit it in a bank and opened an account. "This is yours," he said. "Not mine. Not charity. Your earned money." Then housing. Ozzy and Sharon rented a small but safe apartment, North Hollywood, a quiet street. They paid 6 months in advance, but told Danny, "Your rent will be covered by VA benefits. We're just covering until the system catches up." The apartment was furnished. Bed, table, chair, refrigerator full of food. The first night Danny slept in that bed, he cried until morning. After 38 years, he had a roof, a door, a lock, security. But the biggest thing Ozzy gave him was a guitar. One Saturday morning, Ozzy took him to a music store. "Pick one," he said. "Anyone." Danny chose a Fender acoustic. Shiny, new, perfect sound. Ozzy also bought a hard case, extra strings, a metronome, everything. "Your old Yamaha was your survival," Ozzy said. "This one's your future. Play Iron Man. Play anything. But play, Danny. The world needs to hear you." 3 months passed. Danny was healing. Slowly, painfully, but truly. He was in therapy, taking medication, eating regular meals. But something was missing. Purpose. One day, an offer came from the Veterans Support Center. "Would you consider teaching music to other vets? Volunteer basis, but we think you'd be good at it." Danny accepted. He gave his first lesson in September 2019. 3 young veterans, all returned from Afghanistan or Iraq. All lost. Danny picked up his guitar and played the opening riff of Iron Man. "This song saved my life," he said. "And the man who wrote it, he saved it twice. Now I want to share it with you." The classes grew. From 3 to 10. From 10 to 25. Danny had found something. Himself.